I would cry over anything. Somebody asked me how I was doing at work, and I just broke down. And then I started to talk about it, and I went to therapy. And then everything that was inside of me that I started to acknowledge came out. And it's like, once it's out, you can't put it back in. It's like toothpaste. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And now you got to deal with it and clean up the mess. And I'm cleaning up the mess. This is episode 1. Welcome to Build What Matters. My name is Victoria Cluney, and I'm going to just say this. I'm nervous. This is new to me. I've done a lot of podcasts as a guest, but I have never created my own podcast. And I don't have anybody that I'm talking to today. What I plan to do is give you a little bit of an outline, let you see a little bit into who I am. I have some notes to keep me on track, things that I want to talk to you about, things that I want to explain, even why I decided to do this podcast and why I'm moving as quickly as I am. And it kind of started with an 11-minute video that I posted on Instagram last week after a 2-day healing retreat, where I was inspired because I don't know about you, but social media, have a love-hate relationship with it. I think we all kind of do, but I've been active on social media for about 4 years now. Prior to that, it was all pretty much hate. And I'll save that for another day, but what I'm getting tired of is people that show up online and either just give you fluff, general, but they're all wearing masks. And I guess I'm tired of it. And I don't want to contribute to that either. I think that as a leader, inside the world of social media, but also in my day job profession, I've got over 24 years of service in the Canadian Armed Forces. I'm a senior officer. So you just naturally, I have been trained to think about, how I want to behave as a leader. And that's how I show up online. It's how I show up in my communities. I lead communities. We've got WILER, stands for Women Empowered in Business Investing and Leadership Development. That's where you'll get a little bit of insight into where the name BILD What Matters comes from. And it did start with business, investing, and leadership development because that was what I was interested in. And I'm still very interested in that. I'm a real estate investor as well. Have been investing in commercial, residential, boutique motels, and having a good time with it. We just sold one of our residential properties 2 days ago and starting to cut the fat, so to speak. The properties that they're doing fine, but the juice just isn't worth the squeeze and it doesn't really align with the direction that we're going. So we've been selling off some of those properties, and I'll tell you, it feels really, really good. It's another thing that I want to talk about is focus, and I'm going to write that down so that I can actually save that for another episode. It should have its own episode because too often I see people just like chasing that next shiny thing, and I am just as guilty. And I have had very expensive mentors tell me that I need to focus more, and I wouldn't listen. I love variety and would push back and just say I was different. And I've gotten to a point now where, no, I'm not that different. And it was a limiting belief, and I should have taken that advice when I got it, but sometimes we have to learn the hard way. And I'll still continue to share because maybe somebody else needs to hear that. We'll save this for another day. However, I've been training my whole life for this podcast, I think. I think that I bring a ton of life experience, and good and bad. And that is kind of the point, is that I have a lot of shit to say. and I'm ready to just be more real. And I've been trying to do that on, say, Instagram, but I feel like you really can't dig deep in a 30-second reel. You can't really hit home with a carousel, and there's a place for that in your business and growth and in developing a brand. And, these will be other topics that we'll talk about here on this podcast. But also, it's really important that we take that mask off, so that if you want to make real impact in this world, and that is something that I want to do, then you have to go deeper. And this is what I'm doing. I've been putting it off for way too long. Selfishly, this podcast is also going to be a place where I get to learn. I'm exploring and I'm growing, and I've been going through some really, really difficult times, mainly the last year, but it's been building for the past decade. Easily, I can say that, for the past decade. But it got to the point where I really couldn't keep it down anymore. I couldn't pretend anymore. I couldn't push it away, brush it aside. I've been having a lot of conversations with people, just talking about processing emotions. I always thought that I was really good under pressure. I thought that I was thinking so clearly. Like, I was the person you called if you needed to get a job done, and I stayed calm. But the reason I did that wasn't because I was moving into this calm, alert phase or stage. It was because I was shut down and disconnected and numb from actually feeling. And what happens over time is, as it was explained to me during this 2-day retreat, and it made so much sense, but it was like beach balls, and trying to hold these beach balls underwater, and eventually they just kind of pop up, and you can't do that forever. And that's what's happened to me. And it came out in the form of crying. I would cry over anything. Somebody asked me how I was doing at work, and I just broke down. And then I started to talk about it, and I went to therapy, and then everything that was inside of me that I started to acknowledge came out. And it's like, once it's out, you can't put it back in. It's like toothpaste. You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. And now you got to deal with it and clean up the mess. And I'm cleaning up the mess. So really, this is my pursuit to grow in my business, in my health, in my relationships, mindset. And I want to bring on guests who I can learn from, guests who are building impact, building something that matters, and guests that are willing to take off the mask, guests that are willing to go deep, be real. Throughout these past years of building a community and network and online presence and going to masterminds and joining other communities, I've had the privilege of meeting some pretty incredible people. So I'm really lucky, and I've been writing lists down of people that I can't wait to invite and to talk to. I've had a ton of private conversations with these people, and I know that they're the ones that will be open. And I know that just even starting these conversations, it's going to open up even more opportunities. So I'm really excited about that. And I'm really going to be talking to people who aren't afraid to share the good, the bad, the ugly, and not in the cliche way, like actually talking about real issues, because so many of us struggle. It's normal to struggle. But yet so few of us actually talk about it. One of my fears that I've been open about is that I don't want this to turn into a place where we just vent or we whine or it's a woe is me. That is not the intent here. This is empowering, because we all struggle and we all go through challenges. The thing that sets you apart, it's not the actual struggle, it's how you respond to that struggle. And I want to meet people that rise above. I want to meet people that go through the pain, not the ones that brush it away or pretend everything is okay and just want you to see the good sides and are posturing and just trying to sell you something. I want the people who genuinely want to show up and give value. And we're going to talk about values today. And I think that that's maybe a good insight into what you can expect with me and, where a little bit of my mindset is and the decisions that I make and why I make these decisions and have so much conviction around them, even though they're difficult. I know that more and more of me will be revealed in episodes. And I'm kind of excited for that. I'm excited to have these conversations, and you never know where they're going to go when you're talking to people. Because when I get brought onto podcasts, it's always to talk about like a certain topic that I might have expertise in, something to help you grow your brand or grow your business or your systems or your processes or real estate investing, whatever that is, marketing. And it usually stays pretty surface level. And so I know when I have conversations with people and they're sharing, I'm naturally going to share as well. So I don't feel compelled that I need to just kind of dump everything here, that it will come out naturally over time. I also don't feel the need to list all of my credentials and my resume, as I'm sure that will trickle out as well. And if you really want to know, you'll look it up, and it's out there. There's enough bios of mine that have been written. And so I do want to set the tone today and talk about my values, because this is something that I feel sets me apart. And the people that I've been able to help, anybody that I work with, that's the first question that we establish, that I ask them and we identify up front, are what are your values? Because I need to understand what your values are in order to help guide you in the right direction. And often people aren't very clear on what their values are. They might have some general idea. It's easy to say, okay, I value honesty. Great. But do you value honesty to the point that you're willing to sacrifice for? I want you to go deep. I want you to think about that for yourself. Do you know what your values are? And I think it's really important that we define values to start. And we're talking about the same thing. And the definition really that I'm talking about is like, values we could think about is your beliefs, your perspectives, but at the end of the day, it's the things that matter most to you. It's the standards that you live by. When you properly identify these, they really become the inner compass in your life, and they help you choose what feels right, even when the path isn't clear. Many times people have conflict in their life and they don't realize why. You just feel drained, or you feel like something's off, or you dread going to work or hanging out with a certain person, or just get that feeling like you shouldn't be here, or you don't want to be here, or you don't want to be doing something. Well, it's usually like 99.9% of the time because you're misaligned with your values, because you're doing something that is in conflict with your values. But if you don't identify your values, it's too easy for us to move in the direction of the carrot. Because in life, people dangle carrots, work carrots, business carrots, partnership carrots, opportunity carrots, friendship carrots, family carrots, whatever that carrot is. You have to be able to resist if it doesn't align with your values. But the minute that you take that carrot and it no longer aligns with your values, or moves you into a space or an environment that is not aligned, that's when conflict will happen for you. And it may not be outer conflict, like obvious conflict. It's going to be internal. And it will manifest somehow. So I want you to think about that. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to talk about mine and the way that I think about my values. And so I'm going to talk about five values that I have identified, and I adjust them. I reevaluate them. And so I'm actually looking forward to it because it's been probably a month since I've reviewed them. And I use like an acronym to remember them. And I call it like the WILER code, which is kind of ridiculous and makes no sense and not something that I ever thought that I was going to be like sharing publicly, but why not? So WILER code, WILER, and in no particular order, just because this was what I could come up with, a word that I could remember. But for me, the very first value is wisdom from adversity. Understanding that every setback that happens to me in my life, I'm going to grow from. I'm going to gain more wisdom. I'm going to get better, stronger, smarter. And I can say with conviction, I believe that. And I have gone through some shit. And these are the moments, like this is the stuff that I was kind of afraid of doing a podcast, because I'm still not through it. And if you're listening, it's probably not as clear, but if you're watching, I can't hide my tears very well, and this kind of chokes me up. But even in my darkest moments, I feel the pain, and I don't want to be there, and I don't know for how long I'll be there. I don't know how I'm going to get through it, but I know I will. I have this, this relentless faith that I will grow so much from this. And I almost get excited to know who that person is going to be on the other side. And even right now as I currently struggle, and I'll tell you, I'm better today than I was yesterday. And yesterday was better than last week, and last week was better than last month. And I only continue to get stronger because I'm doing the work, and I am committed to doing the work. But this pain, there's something that actually gives me power. And even though I don't have all the answers right now, it has made me stronger. And there's a point to it. And wisdom from adversity. So that's value number one. Value number two, integrity over opportunity. And what does this one mean? Well, it's a new one that I've identified for myself, because putting yourself out there, building a brand, a following, it comes with some pretty incredible opportunities. And what I have found navigating that over the past, say, 4 years, if I'm talking specifically about, my civilian experience, not my military one, my civilian experience, the opportunities have been quite a bit. I seem to go into organizations, like I'm drawn to communities. I never had that before for like 18 years of my investing and being an entrepreneur. I was doing it by myself. And once I started to find community and networking, I was like a kid in the candy store. I just wanted more and more, because it unlocked like new possibilities for me. And you just don't know what you don't know. And I am a very capable woman, and realized very quickly how small I was playing compared to my level of capability and confidence and my willingness to learn and grow and apply. And it was amazing. And with it, I shot up through the leadership, and a number of organizations, large organizations in both Canada and the US. But what happened was I started to see the back end. I started to see the true colors of the leaders. And I started to realize that we had very different values and very different standards. And I walked away. I walked away from lots of opportunities. Somebody asked me once if I had trauma because I was walking away from an opportunity that, would have really given me a huge platform, a platform much bigger than what I have today, that's for sure, and would have set me up very nicely. And first of all, I mean, that really shone the light on the kind of leadership and the kind of leader that person was. To think that, how do I word this? To accuse me of trauma because I was turning down an opportunity for immense exposure. And I just responded that you clearly don't know me well enough. Integrity over opportunity. I will build my own brand. I will build my own community. And I did. And I made a big pivot after that. And I left that community because I could no longer represent or support leaders like that. And it all came down to, negotiating. The gist of it is that they wanted to take my real estate investing course, white label it, and then distribute it as theirs. And I was fine with that. But in the negotiation, we had determined 50-50, and they turned around and wanted to do an 80-20 split for them. And the second part, which I explained was really important for me at the very beginning, was autonomy. I'm happy to make sure that there's, no crossover, that I'm not competing with trying to take any of their potential clients. I was already teaching real estate investing, and I was going to continue to do so. And so I needed to make sure that there was no non-competes, things that were going to impact my business. And everything was great at the beginning until the actual contract came to me. And it was like I couldn't even breathe without competing. And when I tried to negotiate, and I think we went 3 rounds, by the end, I said respectfully, I decline. And that's when I was asked if I had trauma. Anyways, ridiculous. And so that, it was one of the best things that honestly could have happened to me, because I was able to create a new community that was all of mine, that I, no longer represented somebody else. And it was the first time that I really branched out on my own and built. And so, it was a good move. And I have so many more stories about choosing integrity over opportunity that no doubt that will come out. But for me, I am not for sale. I'm in a place in my life where I'm very content, and I'm not driven solely by money. I think money is important, and I want to talk about that in this show, but it is a vehicle, and I am happy, and I know that I can make money in a lot of different ways. So it's not just one size fits all. I don't have to do anything that I don't want to. And if I don't feel valued, then it's not a place for me. So that was a bit more of a tangent, but this one I feel really strongly about. So L is lead with impact. And I think that's what really brings me here today. It's what has me talking candidly, openly, without needing, people to think anything of me. I can't say I don't care. I mean, I feel like we're all human here, but it's not what drives me. And I would much rather bring substance to the table. I'd much rather stand for something rather than go with the flow just to be liked. No. Lead with impact. So everything that I do, I want to make impact. and I'm intentional about it, and I show up even when I don't want to. The message is more important than the ego. And every day I'm really trying to demonstrate that, because I guess it's been reinforced enough with me now at this stage where the messages that I get are so incredibly touching and vulnerable, and I honestly feel like I am making a difference. So yeah, I guess that helps me. It helps me kind of put aside how I feel. Like, I am a person of service. It feels good to be of service. In the military, I have been a career counselor for over a decade, and you don't get paid extra in the military. Like, you get a salary, and it doesn't matter if you work 5 hours a day or if you work 12 hours a day or if you go over and above. But I was always a person who went over and above for no extra pay and no extra thanks. I didn't need it, and I still don't. I don't need validation, genuinely. I joke with my husband because he does love validation, and I think that, I don't think he minds, but I guess I'll have that conversation with him and he'll be fine, because I do want to share a lot. Like, he's such an interesting guy, but he's a very behind the scenes guy. Like, he's not going to put himself out there. I am really going to try to get him as a guest for sure, because that man has been through some things, and he's an incredible human if you get the privilege to meet him. The BILD Pro community has gotten to see, and anyways. So he really likes validation. He wants to be appreciated. And so knowing that, I try to give him that. But we just joke about it, because for me, I don't need it. It's not what drives me, genuinely doesn't. It's always nice, of course. Sometimes it makes me uncomfortable. Like, my husband will thank me like 30 times if I bring him something, or if I make dinner, or, just do something. He thanks me over and over again. And it almost annoys me. And I'm just like, because I don't want to have to respond. I don't want to have to say, it's okay. If there's something that I don't know why it makes me uncomfortable. So it's a real dichotomy between the two of us, because I almost don't want to be thanked, and he loves it. So anyways, it's interesting. The fourth value is extreme ownership. And I had a really good conversation today, actually, with somebody that we were just talking about, how to overcome a disagreement. And I explained how important accountability and ownership is, and we can only control our own actions. And as a leader, I have learned to take extreme ownership. And there's a really good book. Jocko Willink's wrote a book called Extreme Ownership. And I love him to pieces, but it's something that you have control over your actions. And even if you're in the right, like, who knows what the thing is that you're thinking about, you can always sit back and ask yourself, what could I have done differently in this situation? And that's what I try to do. And so at every stage, whether I'm talking to an employee, a client, my family, I want to try to take full ownership of my piece in this. And what I find is that when you do that, then you're met with the same level of respect and accountability. Where I have a really hard time is when I'm working with someone or around somebody that doesn't take accountability. And that's when I disconnect, because I don't see how it can be one-sided. And so in our business, accountability and extreme ownership is very high for our culture. And anybody that works with us, that's what we talk about. Everybody takes accountability for their role in whatever it is. And so Extreme ownership is something I live by, because it's the only way I'm going to get better. And then the final one, and that kind of even brings us today, again, to the show, is relentless execution. So relentless execution, and I see this so often because I work with so many business owners, is that people will try something once and then they quit because it didn't work. And I'm just like, that is so frustrating for me, because it's not how I operate. I'm because of the extreme ownership, I think about my part in all of this. How could I have done it better? Am I missing information? What could I do differently? What data can I get from this? Again, wisdom from adversity. You get better every time you try. And relentless execution is no quit, never giving up. I am committed. I am committed to the growth. I'm committed to improving, committed to mastery. And I understand that in order to get there, you will make mistakes. In order to get there, things are not going to work out. And if things work out the first time, we don't learn anything. So you have to go through the struggle. And I have this mindset now that, I don't look forward to the struggle. I do everything in my power to succeed and to win and to, no fail. But if I know that I've done everything in my power and it hasn't worked out, then there's room for growth. And that's an opportunity. And doing the work, taking initiative. I've been saying I want to do a podcast for over a year. And then I put out that 11-minute video because I had shit to say. And I know how much I have to say. And there's something inside of me that is calling me to do this right now, today. I didn't even know that I was going to do this today, to be honest. I kind of thought, maybe I should start thinking about what I want to say. Then I just made the decision and I pressed play. And so here we are. And I'll wrap it up at this stage because I think this is a good place. And I've got a list of guests that I'm going to be bringing on. And I'm very excited to share because we're going to go down some roads that might be pretty dark, very vulnerable, but also incredibly valuable and inspirational. And I think we can learn a lot through this. And I want feedback too. I would love to hear from you. I would love input, good, bad, ugly. I don't care. I want it. Genuinely, I'm one of those people that when I say I want feedback, I would love feedback. If it's criticism, it'd be nice if it was private, if you sent it directly, but also open, that's what happens when you put yourself out there. If you did find value in today's episode, I would love for you to subscribe because this is new and I need to build this. And in order to build this, I need people to watch, to download, to share, to subscribe. And I would love if you want to take it one step further and write a quick testimonial or review. That would be incredible. I'd be incredibly grateful because I know how important this is for growing this type of channel. What I'm going to do as a little bit of additional incentive, I was one of the, 100,000 million, who knows how many, who bought Alex Hormozi's $100 million money models. And so I have 200 copies of these bad boys. And what I've decided to do is every single week, I'm going to be doing a draw in our reviews for people who have left reviews. And it doesn't necessarily have to be the same week that you leave the review, but that just means that you get more chances until you win. So with that, I will see you next time.